Welcome to the fish tank.
Hey everybody, Fishman here. While I'm waiting for a couple of my other projects to finish up so I can post videos for them, I thought I'd do this one quick little one of, and it's going to be about making your own DIY airline hose clamps. I find that the store-bought ones, first off, you have to cut the airline, and secondly, if they're relatively cheap, they can leak, so you lose a lot of air pressure, and this gets around both of those. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this machinable plastic, it's called Delrin, or acetal if you like, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a valve, but the valve is going to be acting like a piston. It's going to press against the airline tubing instead of how you having to cut it. And I'm going to, in future videos, actually show this in operation so you can see how it works. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take that Delrin, I'm going to, with this drill here, I'm going to put a drill bit which is just slightly bigger than the airline, and I'm going to drill perpendicular to the length of the rod. That's where the airline is going to fit through, and then after I drill this hole, I'm going to drill a hole using a bit that's slightly smaller than the tap, and I'm going to thread a hole through perpendicular to that so that you can run that 1/4 inch down through, and it would act as compression on that airline. And this, by the way, works really well with the silicone airline tubing instead of the vinyl, cheaper vinyl ones, because the silicone tends to keep its elasticity longer. So what I'm going to do is just going to drill this hole through. There you go. And then the hard part about doing that by hand, of course, is you want to keep it as perpendicular to the opposite direction as possible, so that when the piston comes down through, it will crimp evenly instead of, at an angle. There you go. It fits through quite nicely. Now we're going to do the other direction, and then what we're going to do after that is we're going to run a tap through it and to give it its threads. This is a very easy project. I mean, it's if you're just making one, it actually doesn't really make much of a difference whether you have the machines to do it or not, because like I said, this is actually fairly straightforward to do by hand. This is the critical hole. This is the one that has to try and make as perpendicular as possible. And trust me, it's really hard to do by hand. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use the tap with its wrench, and we're going to feed that through. And because it's plastic, this is really easy to do. Once you get it started, trying to keep it square, again, that's the hard part. But once it starts feeding, it's easy. You can just, like 2 fingers here, and we can fit it through. So what we're going to do now is the main body for the valve is actually done. It's very easy to do. You have the perpendicular hole and you have the feed through hole. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take the 1/4 inch. We're going to do the exact same thing, except, well, in reverse, I suppose. The nice thing with the 1/4 inch rod, though, is you don't have to pare it down or anything. You just run the die through it, and it will, again, very easily, I'm going to just use one finger this time, it'll thread it, which is really kind of cool. Now, like I said, if you're just making 1 or 2 of these, this is great, because I think it took me like 10 minutes altogether to make the whole thing. And like I said, plastic is very easy to work with, and it won't wear out, and it will also, well, even if you using vinyl, if you move this valve back and forth along the length of it from time to time, it will prevent it from forming a permanent kink. But with silicone tubing, it's quite good. So there we go. Just feed it through, and all you need to do is just turn it down, and you have a clamp. It's as easy as that. So what I'm going to do now is, because I want to make about 20 of these things, I'm going to show you how I would do it, because this is much faster. I just set the stops up on the saw, and I can cut each of these pieces. I can put through 20 in a matter of a couple minutes, and it's much simpler to do for me. And then instead of relying on hand-eye coordination to cut the holes, what I do here is I set up parallel, and then put in the piece, clamp it down, and then remove the parallel, and it's very easy just to drill that straight through. Again, like it's plastic, so it's there's no real pressure. And then the critical hole, which is going to be the one that's perpendicular to this, It's just as easy to do because what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it in the lathe. And it's a simple matter to drill the hole, and also because it's already set up, I can change the drill bit out and I can put in the tap wrench, the tap, and easily just tap the holes. The real advantage here is I'm just doing one, of course, to show you, but if I were doing 20 of them, I would do it assembly line. I would just do all the cross holes, then I would do all these holes, and then I would also just go ahead and tap all the threads on them. And it's very simple to keep switching them out, and it's much faster when you're doing a number of things. So here's the tap, and instead of running it by machine, because I don't have a power feed for this, all I'm going to do is just going to turn it by hand. What I'll do is I'll put a bit of pressure on, and then once it starts to feed, you can see it starting to sink in. I just release the clamp on the slide, and the actual turning of the plastic pulls the tap through, and you thread the holes. Very easy to do. So here we go, got them all side by side. What I did is this piston rod here that I threaded, I did by hand, so you can see there's a slight wobble to it. That kind of annoyed me, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do another one. I'm going to show you how to do that by putting it in the lathe. But you can see the one I did by hand, which is the one I'm turning now, is kind of crooked. But when you do it with this way, it comes through very straightforward, and it's the same as doing the other ones, just reverse, that's all. So there you go. Two easy ways, one with machines, one by hand, so you can make a very easy hose air clamps. So what I'm going to do is once I build a new rack, I'm going to show you how these work in operation, and then it'll be kind of cool. So anyway, thank you very much for watching. If you like this style of video, please like and or subscribe. That's the one that was done by the machine. You can see it's nice and straight and true. The one off to the left there, I'm just leaving there. It's the one I did by eye, sorry. Guess my hand-eye coordination needs some work. And then this is the one that I threaded the rod by hand, and you can see there's just a slight bit of wobble in it. Anyway, thanks again for watching, and I will see you in the next video.